So, hi everyone. Today I'm going to give one interview question on table level, say for example, I have a fact table, I have a dimension table, and I have a aggregated table. So daily I have a at 5 a.m. I have a schedule refresh. I have a schedule refresh. So how the data will be loaded? My question is which table the first data will be loaded? So my question is I have a fact table, I have a dimension table, I have aggregation table. So daily at 5 a.m. I have a schedule refresh. So which table the data will be loaded first? First I will give the answer. The data will be loaded first into the dimension table, then fact table, then aggregation table. Now my question is why? How it will be loaded into dimension table? Generally the loading will happen based on the dependency, not with the based on the tables. Dimension tables which we have the descriptive columns, right? Fact tables which we have the measures, and aggregation tables on top of the fact table we will create the aggregation table. So fact table contains the foreign keys of the that is the keys which will be available in the dimension table. So dimension table is a independent, fact table is a dependent on the dimension table generally. Aggregation table on top of that fact table we will create that aggregation table. So let me give one small example. Say for example, if you go to a restaurant, so we ordered some 3 items. Okay, so we ordered 3 items and we had our lunch, and then so the manager is generating the bill. So how the manager will be generating the bill? Based on the customers or based on the items we ordered? Say for example, there is an item called fried rice, let us take. So there are 10 customers are there. So 10 customers may order the fried rice, let us assume that. So item wise they will they will generate the bill, or customer wise they will generate the bill. Generally they will generate the bill based on the customer, right? Say for example X customer is there, that X customer ordered some 3 items. So for that 3 items, for that customer he will generate the bill, not based on the items, right? So here customer is the dimension table, and the orders, like orders, item wise orders is the fact table. So first, like how they will generate the bill based on the customers, they will what items he ordered, that items he will be generated the bill, right? So the first model is the customer table, which is the dimension table. First the data will be loaded into the dimension table, then it will goes to the items wise which he orders he booked, that items he will calculate like quantity and amount, and those details will be calculated. So in such a way, first the data will be loaded into the dimension table, then the data will be loaded into the fact table, because fact table is depending on the dimension table. Fine. Like what about the aggregation table? So now the data is loaded into the dimension table and fact table. So we have one more, right? Aggregation table, right? What about the aggregation table? Generally the manager come at the end of the day and just he asked us like I want the product wise, item wise total sales I want. So we are aggregating the data, right? So biryani, some 20 products sold out and some 10,000. So fried rice, some 30 items we sold out, and the amount is some 5,000, like that. So items wise we are aggregating the data. That means items data where it is available in the fact table. On top of that fact table, we are aggregating the data, which is nothing but aggregated table. So aggregated table is purely depending on the fact table. So fact table is depending on the dimension table, and aggregation table is depending on the fact table. So the data will be loaded first in the dimension table, then the fact table, then the aggregation table. So it is not, the data loading will happen not based on the tables, it's happen based on the dependency. Like ultimately dimension table is independent, it is not depending on any other table, right? So fact table is depending on the dimension table, and aggregation table is depending on the fact table. So the process would be dimension table, fact table, and aggregation table. Hope you got my point.